I want us to continue with our lessons and the topics we have embarked on. Last week we were about to finish locomotion. There was something little left about locomotion in fish. So I want us to finish up that part as far as locomotion in fish is concerned. So the last bit that we're supposed to embark on is about the action or the role of muscles in locomotion in fish. So let us complete that bit of locomotion in fish. So we are going to begin with the action or the role of muscles. Role of muscles. The role of muscles in locomotion in fish. In locomotion in fish. In locomotion in fish. Remember, we talked of fish having an endoskeleton, and the skeleton has muscles. The muscles we talk about, we described them or gave them a name myotomes, or we said they can also be called block muscles. Block muscles. These ones occur on either side of the body of the fish, and they are attached to the skeleton. So locomotion in fish is achieved by the movement of the muscles attached on the skeleton, and it is also aided by the fins. The fins. Remember, the fish have the paired fins, and the unpaired fins, To some extent, to a smaller extent, the fins also play a very major role in movement or propelling the body of fish forward. But the main function or the main role of the fins is to control movement and instability. Control movement and are also important in stability of the fish. They are important in stability of the fish when in water. They control unstable movements in fish. The unstable movements in fish, we shall also talk about them today and finish up with locomotion. So let us look at the action or the role of muscles in locomotion in fish. Okay, so the whole vertebral column, the whole vertebral column of or spine of fish is flexible. The whole vertebral column, or spine of fish is flexible. So the whole vertebral column or the spine of fish is flexible. So the flexibility of the vertebral column or the spine of fish is very important in aiding movement. It also has well-developed and powerful block muscles. It has well-developed and powerful block muscles, the one we call the myotomes. Powerful block muscles called myotomes. These ones occur on either side of the body of fish. Powerful block muscles called myotomes, arranged in pairs. The myotomes or the block muscles are arranged in pairs downwards on either side of the fish's body. Downwards on either side of the fish's body. Last week we drew the structure of the vertebral column, showing the attachment of the block muscles. Attachment of the block muscles, if you remember very well, that's something like that, showing muscle attachment. So they occur on either side of the body of fish. So has well developed and powerful block muscles arranged in pairs downwards on either side of the fish's body. The action of myotomes is antagonistic. Action of myotomes is antagonistic. It is antagonistic. We are now all familiar with the word antagonistic, meaning they bring about opposing effects to each other. So they are antagonistic and contract in a series. They contract in series from the head down to the tail. 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 Alternately. From the head down to the tail, alternately. From the head down to the tail, alternately. This causes a wave-like movement to pass down the body. This causes a wave-like. It causes a wave-like movement to pass down the body. Wave-like movement to pass down the body. To pass down the body. To pass down the body. Hope members are taking notes. Pass down the body. As a result, the caudal fin or the tail fin as a result, the caudal fin or tail fin, as a result, the caudal fin or tail fin, sets up pressure on the water. It sets up pressure on the water. Remember the caudal fin, the tail fin is the last fin at the back of the body. So if this is the fish structure, the caudal fin or tail fin, this part here. So the caudal fin, or we have called it the tail fin. We are saying it sets up pressure on the water. Right? So the caudal fin sets up pressure on the water. On that side, on that side, on the water on that side, on the water on that side, and it pushes the water backwards, and it pushes the water backwards, pushes the water backwards, it pushes the water backwards, pushes the water backwards. In reaction, the water sets up. In reaction, the water. Now the effect also is felt on the water. So in reaction, the water also sets up a forward force. It also sets up a forward force, or we can as well call it a thrust, a forward thrust, So the caudal fin, when it sets up a pressure on the water on one side of the body, pushing the water backwards. So as a result, the water also sets up a forward force or a forward thrust. A forward thrust on the tail. A forward thrust on the tail. A forward thrust on the tail. Forward thrust on the tail, which pushes the fish forward. Which pushes the fish forward. Which pushes the fish forward. It is these side-to-side movements of the tail. It is these side-to-side movements of the tail. So it is those continued or alternate side-to-side movements of the tail. So it is these side-to-side movements of the tail, that produce the propulsive forces, that produce the propulsive forces, that produce the propulsive forces that drive the fish rapidly forward in water, that drive the fish rapidly forward in water, rapidly forward in water, that drive the fish rapidly forward in water. So basically, that is how the muscles, the skeletal muscles or the body muscles of the fish, we call the myotomes, bring about forward movement of the body of fish when it is in water. So it is the effect of the caudal fin and the blocker muscles, we call the myotomes, that work antagonistically. Remember, the myotomes, they occur in blocks and they occur on either side of the body of the fish. So we can maybe illustrate with simple drawings of those movements that cause forward movements of the body of fish. So simple drawings, forward motion. So forward motion, forward motion. So you can draw So we have said, as a result of caudal fin or tail fin, setting up pressure on the water on one side. So if the caudal fin is moved this side, movement of the caudal fin is on this side, it sets up pressure on the water. So it sets up pressure on the water and it pushes the water backwards. So the water is pushed backwards. As it slashes it like this, water is pushed backwards. So there is a backward thrust, setting up a forward motion or a forward force or a forward thrust. So which pushes the fish forward. So in these side-to-side movements, they are continuous. So it lashes this side, the tail or the caudal fin, then again it has to turn on the other side to bring about a similar effect. So a similar effect on the other side is also felt, as it is also felt on one other side. For example, if it is the left side of the body, the same effect is also felt on the right side of the body. So basically that is how the muscles, the myotome muscles, and the fin, the tail fin. So we take note of the effect of the tail fin on the water surface. It is very, very important in achieving forward motion. As the tail lashes against the water, there is a backward thrust causing forward movement of the body. As it turns on the other side, it again lashes over the water, pushes the fish forward. Remember, the body is also made up of those block muscles called myotomes. Okay, then we move on to the role of the fins in locomotion in fish. So the first one was action or the role of muscles in locomotion. The role of muscles, we have seen that. Next, we move on to the role of fins in locomotion in fish. Much as the body of the fish have different types of fins, but the fins are not necessarily playing a role in locomotion in terms of movement, but they control mainly instabilities in fish. So the role, can write that one, role of fins in locomotion, the role of fins in locomotion. The role of fins, the role of fins in locomotion. 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 Okay. Like I said earlier, the body of fish has different types of fins and of different shapes and sizes, right? Like we have seen, it has the unpaired fins. We shall look at the unpaired fins. Unpaired fins. The unpaired fins, those that occur as one or single. We have, for example, the tail fin, also known as the caudal fin. We have the dorsal fin. These two are unpaired. They occur as one from the body of fish. Then the paired ones, we shall also look at the paired fins. The paired fins, the ones that occur in twos, the paired fins. So fins contribute some propulsive force in some fish, right? So fins, can say fins contribute, they contribute some propulsive, they contribute some propulsive force in some fish. In some fish, they contribute, they bring about forward movement or forward thrust in some fish. However, the main function of the fins is to control stability, right? However, the main function of fins is to control stability. To control stability. In other words, fish are always challenged when moving in water. They encounter a number of instabilities, right? They encounter a number of instabilities when in water. So they are like, I would say, you look at these fins, they operate like brakes, like a car moving on the road or any vessel moving, right? It has those control mechanisms. So they control some instabilities. Fish encounter a number of instabilities, like some of the instabilities they encounter is pitching. Shall talk about these instabilities. Pitching, yawing. Shall get to know the meaning of these words. Pitching, yawing. They also encounter an instability we refer to as rolling. Those are unstable and uncomfortable movements in water. So it's the role of the fins, either the paired or the unpaired fins, to overcome such instabilities when in water. So however, their main function is to control stability and the direction the fish takes in water. And the direction the fish takes the fish takes when in water. The fish takes when in water. So please you take note. Their main function is to control stability and giving proper direction of the body of fish when it is in water. The fins are mainly used by the fish in steering and balancing the body. So the fins are mainly used in steering. They are mainly used in steering and balancing the body of fish. Balancing the body of fish. They are very important in steering and balancing the body of fish. They are very important for those two main roles. So the fins are of two categories. The fins are of two categories. The fins are of two categories. The fins are of two categories, i.e., the paired fins. The paired fins. I talked of those that occur in twos. Paired fins. Which are these ones? The paired fins and the unpaired fins. The paired fins and the unpaired fins. Unpaired fins. The unpaired fins. Paired fins and unpaired fins. The paired fins include the pectoral fins. The paired fins include the pectoral fins. So if you look at the body of the fish, you have that drawing, you have had that drawing for a number of years. It's very familiar, you can easily locate the position of the pectoral fins. So the paired fins includes the pectoral fins. Include the pectoral fins. Include the pectoral fins. Those ones occur in twos or they occur in pairs. The pectoral fins and the pelvic fins. And pelvic fins. And the pelvic fins. Those ones occur in pairs. Pectoral fins, pelvic fins. They are paired fins. And these are located on the sides of the body. And these are located on the sides of the body. And these are located. It's very important to also know their position or location on the body. So these are located on the sides of the body. They are located on the sides of the body. They are located on the sides of the body. They are located on the sides of the body. Paired fins help with the fine control of movements. So paired fins, the paired fins help with fine control of movements. They are important in controlling fine movements. So during rapid forward movements, they are held close to the side of the body. During rapid forward movements, they are held close to the side of the body. They are held close to the side of the body. Close to the side of the body. So during rapid forward movements, the paired fins that is the pectoral fins and the pelvic fins, are held close to the side of the body, that is during rapid movement. They don't have to be open. You can easily open them or spread them, release them from the body. But when they are in motion, that is fast motion or fast movement, those paired fins are held close onto the body, right, to avoid any kind of interruptions in movement or resistances against the water. So they are held close to the side of the body, which makes the fish more streamlined. Which makes the fish more streamlined. Makes the fish more streamlined. More streamlined. More streamlined. And reduce drag. And reduce drag. Reduce any kind of resistances against water, reduce drag. When the paired fins on either side are extended, when they move them, so when the paired fins on either side of the body, are extended, when they are extended, when the paired fins on either side of the body are extended, the fish slows down or even stops. The fish slows down. It slows down or stops. Are you getting the role of the fins? So when it opens, when it releases those fins, movement is slowed down, or even it can stop moving completely. So when they open, when the fins, the paired fins, the pectoral and the pelvic fins on either side of the body are extended, they are moved away from the body. Remember, we have said when it is in rapid motion, they are held close to the body or firm, tied to the body to avoid any resistance against water, to maintain a streamlined body position of the body, right? So when they are released, when those paired fins are released or are extended from the body, it results in slow movement or complete stoppage of movement. Okay. So when they're extended, it stops or slows movement. If the pectoral and pelvic fins are stretched, if they are stretched, so if the pectoral and the pelvic fins are stretched, pelvic fins are stretched. If they are stretched, if the pectoral and pelvic fins are stretched on just one side of the body, on just one side of the body, on just one side of the body. So if pectoral and pelvic fins on one side of the body are stretched, they are stretched out, the fish changes direction. The fish changes direction. It changes direction. The fish changes direction and turns to that side. And turns to that side. It turns to that side. It turns to that side. Changes direction and turns to that side. So the pectoral and pelvic fins are also used to control the level at which pectoral and pelvic fins, the pectoral and pelvic fins are also used to control the level. They are also used to control the level at which the fish is swimming. The level at which the fish is swimming. In other words, they can be regarded as fins that maintain the depth or the height, control level at which the fish is swimming. In other words, they are important in maintenance of depth. Maintain depth. Remember, we said the fish never swims at the bottom of the water. Remember, it has other adaptations that also facilitates maintenance of depth or buoyancy. We said it has an air bladder, it has a swim bladder, but still, it's a combination of many structures on the body of the fish to achieve depth or to achieve height when in water. So the paired fins, pectoral fins, are also used to control the level at which the fish is swimming, or they're important in maintaining the depth. So it is pectoral fins, and they're used to control the level at which the fish swims, which is known as pitching. Which is known as pitching. Known as pitching. It is known as pitching. So you take note of the word pitching. It's one of the instability. If it loses depth, then it is these two fins to come in action to bring about maintenance of depth, right? If it loses height, no more depth in water, the pectoral fins then will open to bring about that control, to avoid that instability. Okay. I.e. the movement of fish up and down in water. Pitching is the movement of fish. Movement of fish up and down in water. So the fish can't move up and down, right? It has to move, maintain that side to side movement, swimming. So in case it counteracts those unstable movements of up and down, then it is the pectoral fins to come in action to bring about stable movement, to avoid those deflections of the body up and down in water. So that is the role of those two fins. The role of those two fins in water. Also during slow movements, the fish uses these fins. Also during slow movements, the fish uses these two fins. Slow movements. When there is slow movement, it is still the pectoral and pelvic fins to balance the body of water. Balance the body of fish. So it's also during these slow movements that the fish uses those two fins to perform or to work as pedals. The fish may appear as if it is still in water, not showing any movement. So it is those two fins that keep it moving slowly. They are always in motion. They are always beating against the water to maintain that slow movement of the fish. Okay, then let us move to the unpaired fins. So the pectoral fins, you have seen how they are useful in locomotion. The unpaired fins include the dorsal fin, The unpaired fins. The unpaired fins include the dorsal fin, the dorsal fin. You take notes. Dorsal fin, comma the ventral fin or the anal fin. Ventral fin, in brackets, anal fin, the anal fin, and the caudal fin, Those ones appear in, they are one. They are just single, right? Just a reminder. Which fins are we talking about? There's this one, that dorsal, on top of the body. Then we have this one. So we have the tail fin, also known as caudal. Then the dorsal fin. Then the anal fin, anal or ventral anal fin. These ones occur as single. They occur in singles. So the unpaired fins, how do these ones benefit or play a role in locomotion in fish? So the unpaired fins, these are used to keep the fish upright in water. These are used to keep the fish upright. When in water. They are used to keep the fish upright when in water by increasing the vertical surface. By increasing the vertical surface, vertical surface, by increasing the vertical surface, So the caudal fin helps the fish to swim forwards. Caudal fin causes the fish to swim forwards. The caudal fin causes the fish to swim forwards. It causes it to swim forward. The dorsal and ventral fins control and prevent rolling. Dorsal and ventral fins control rolling of the body. They control rolling of the body. It prevents rolling, that is unstable movement. So the fish can't roll in water. So those are the role of the dorsal and the ventral fins come in play to avoid the body being rolled when in water. So that dorsal and ventral fins also control and prevent yawing in water. So the dorsal and ventral fins, ventral fins control yawing. These ones control yawing. They control yawing of the fish, i.e. they control and prevent the tendency to move from side to side, i.e. control the tendency of fish to move from side to side. Tendency of the fish to move from side to side, side to side, as the fish swims. As the fish swims. So basically, that is how the fins play a role in swimming or locomotion in fish. Just take note of the two types of fins that we are talking about. The paired fins. The paired fins we have identified as pectoral and pelvic. And what do they do majorly? They control depth. They control level at which the fish is swimming. They prevent it from dropping or losing height. So they control some instabilities like pitching, those up and down movements, losing height, right? Then the paired fins, we have identified them as dorsal fin and ventral fin. These ones we have said they prevent rolling, right? They prevent rolling and yawing. They control these unstable movements. So you take note of the unstable movements as rolling, yawing. The role of the dorsal and ventral fins is very important in preventing rolling and yawing. The role of the paired fins, pectoral and pelvic fins, prevents unstable movement known as pitching. So you take note of those three words: pitching, one of the instability in fish movements, and the other one is rolling, and the other one is yawing. Yawing. So I want us to stop at that for locomotion in organisms. We are going to introduce ourselves to another topic today, right? Just left with a few minutes. So with locomotion in different organisms, I think the only part that is left now for us to discuss, did we do locomotion in mammals? So mammalian locomotion is still hanging. Someone is reminding me here. We can't introduce ourselves to a new topic, but I beg that we pay attention to locomotion in humans or in mammals like humans. Remember, as if we are talking about locomotion of the movement of the arm. What was left that we didn't talk about? Mammalian skeleton. Someone says mammalian skeleton was not discussed. Okay, let us give it attention as well, since we have enough time now that we are still at home, and look at mammalian skeleton. So, the mammalian skeleton. Mammalian skeleton. So mammalian skeleton is divided into two different parts. So take note of that. Our skeleton. The example here, we shall look at man as a representative mammal. So our body is made up of bones, and we can divide our skeleton into two parts. The mammalian skeleton is divided into two different skeletons. So you take note of that. The mammalian skeleton is divided It's divided into two parts. It's divided into two parts, i.e., the two parts are: one, the exoskeleton. The exoskeleton. Two, appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton. Exoskeleton and the appendicular skeleton. What do we mean by these words? Exoskeleton and the appendicular skeleton. The exoskeleton is the skeleton of the central parts. So the exoskeleton is the skeleton of the central parts. Skeleton of the central parts. It is the skeleton of the central parts, which consists of the skull, which consists of the skull. Consists of the skull. It consists of the skull, vertebral column, vertebral column, vertebral column, vertebral column, or call it the backbone. So the exoskeleton is made up of those two parts: the skull, the vertebral column, the vertebrae, the trunk, rib cage, and the sternum. And call rib cage and the sternum, the chest bone. So those are the main parts of the exoskeleton: the skull, vertebral column, rib cage, and the sternum. So if you look at the drawing of the skeleton, you can identify those parts we have talked about as the skull, the vertebral column from the neck to the wrist, then the rib cage and the sternum or the breastbone. The sternum or the breastbone. Those ones make up the exoskeleton. The appendicular skeleton, the second one, appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton. So the remaining other parts we have not talked about. Look at the arms or the legs. The arms and the legs make up the appendicular skeleton. So the appendicular skeleton, the parts that make up the appendicular skeleton include the hanging parts. Is the skeleton of the hanging parts. Is the skeleton of the hanging parts. This is the skeleton of the hanging parts. The hanging parts, those are your arms, those are the limbs or the legs. Hanging parts, which consist of the two four limb girdles, which consists of the two limb girdles. The two limb girdles and the limb bones and the limb bones and the limb bones and the limb bones and the limb bones. We all have the drawing of the mammalian, the structure of the mammalian skeleton, the human skeleton. It's very important to master the parts and the position of those bones along the human skeleton. The skull that encloses the brain. So the components of the exoskeleton. The components of the exoskeleton. We can talk about the components of the exoskeleton. So the components of the exoskeleton, we have already mentioned that it's made up of the skull, vertebral column, the rib cage, the sternum. So components of the exoskeleton. The components of the exoskeleton. The components of the exoskeleton are components. One, the skull. The skull. The skull. The skull is made up of several flat bones. It's made up of several flat bones. Made up of several flat bones. Several flat fused bones. They are flat and fused. Flat fused bones. Many flat fused bones, or fused or joined together by immovable joints. Fused bonds by immovable joints. Immovable joints. Immovable joints. Immovable joints. Immovable joints. The fused bonds together form a case. The fused bonds together form a case. They form a case. Together form a case known as cranium. Known as cranium. So the skull is made of a hard bone, flat fused bones that enclose a very delicate organ of the body called the brain. So the cranium is the case in which the brain is enclosed. So the skull is made in such a way that all the bones that make up the skull, those fused flat bones that make up the skull, right? Take note, they are light. They are light, but hard. They are light but hard. That one has an advantage to an organism, that because they are light, it doesn't pose a lot of what? Heaviness and weight on the body of the animal. That is why we are able to nod our heads with ease, or we can carry our heads easily. So it minimizes excessive weight, but provides maximum strength. Minimizes excessive weight, but provides maximum weight. The cranium has a large hole called foramen magnum. The cranium has a large hole. It has a large hole. It has a large hole called foramen magnum. Foramen magnum. It has a large hole called the foramen magnum, and it is where the spinal cord passes. And it is where the spinal cord passes. It's where the spinal cord passes. It's where the spinal cord passes. It has a large hole known as foramen magnum, where the spinal cord passes. The function of the skull. The functions of the skull. The function of the skull. If you look at the skull, it houses, it provides space for many important organs. Our ears are attached on the skull. Our eyes are attached on the skull. The nose is attached on the skull. The brain is enclosed in the skull. The skull has jaws and teeth. So the functions of the skull. The functions of the skull. So having known what the skull has on it, or what it houses or supports on it, you can say the skull encloses and protects the delicate brain. 1. Encloses and protects the delicate brain. It encloses and protects the delicate brain. I told you it is hard, right? Very hard. And it has fused bones, several fused bones. So it encloses the delicate brain. Our brain is very delicate, but it is the main control center of the body. The skull also protects the delicate parts of the eyes and the ears. Protects the delicate parts of the eyes and the ears. Eyes and ears. All these are sensitive and important parts of the body. Eyes and ears. Eyes and ears. The details of the eyes are more than what we see on the surface of our eyes. The details of the ear, there is a lot inside that we can't see visibly. What we see on the outside of the ear is a flap of flesh known as the pinna or the outer ear. So all those are important and sensitive parts of the body that the skull protects. Then we can move to the vertebral column. The vertebral column. So we have looked at the skull. Now the next part of the exoskeleton is the vertebral column. Vertebral column. The vertebral column. Vertebral column. The vertebral column, this is also known as the backbone or spine. This is also known as the backbone. It's also known as the backbone or spine. It's known as backbone or spine. It is also known as the backbone or spine. The vertebral column extends down the long axis of the body. The vertebral column extends. It extends down the long axis. It extends down the long axis of the body. Long axis of the body. It extends down the long axis of the body and runs from the skull and runs from the skull. It runs from the skull, runs from the skull to the tip of the tail, to the tip of the tail, to the tip of the tail. Members may wonder, why am I talking about a tail? Yet man doesn't have a tail. But our closest relatives, the monkeys, the chimpanzees, the baboons, right, that we are closely related to, or that we closely resemble and have a similar body plan, for them they have a tail. Remember, we are talking about mammalian skeleton. However, our tail disappears as growth takes place during fetal development of the fetus. The tail disappears with time. Then it is reduced into a small, short bone. That's why we are considering that as a tail. So vertebral column extends down the long axis of the body, runs from the skull to the tip of the tail. It forms the foundation upon which the vertebral column forms. It forms the foundation. It forms the foundation upon which the whole skeleton is built. It forms the foundation upon which the whole skeleton is built. The whole skeleton is built. The backbone consists of a series of small bones. The backbone consists of a series of bones or smaller bones known as the vertebrae. So the backbone consists of a series of bones, smaller bones known as vertebrae. Small bones known as vertebrae. The vertebrae are separated by soft elastic discs. The vertebrae are separated. These ones are separated by elastic soft discs of cartilage. Elastic soft discs of cartilage called intervertebral discs. Intervertebral discs. These perform two functions. These intervertebral discs perform two functions. So these perform two functions. One, they allow slight movement between the vertebrae. Slight movement between the vertebrae. They allow slight movement between the vertebrae, such as bending and twisting. So we can easily bend our backs, twist our backs because of that flexibility in between the vertebral bones or the vertebrae. So they allow those intervertebral discs are the ones that allow those slight movements of bending, twisting of the back bones. Then the other function of the intervertebral discs, they also act as shock absorbers. They act as shock absorbers. Shock absorbers. They act as shock absorbers. Shock absorbers. They act as shock absorbers between the vertebrae. 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 They work as shock absorbers or function as shock absorbers between the vertebrae. Together, the vertebrae make a long hollow tube. Together, the vertebrae or the backbone, the vertebrae make a long hollow tube. Make a long hollow tube. Long hollow tube. Make a long hollow tube. They make a long hollow tube in which the spinal cord passes. 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 So in man, the backbone is made up of 33 bones. In a man, the backbone is made up of 33 bones. In man, the backbone is made up of 33 bones. So in man, the backbone is made up of 33 bones. So there are 33 smaller bones from the neck up to the tail. There are 33 bones in man. Of course, the number of bones vary in different animals. So in man, there are 33. There are 33, and they are of different shapes, and they are of different sizes and functions and positions. Remember, they stretch from the neck to the thorax, from the thorax to the abdominal region, then to the tail. So there are 33 in total in man. So the vertebrae have some functions to perform. So functions of the vertebral column. Functions of the vertebral column. The functions of the vertebral column. The functions of the vertebral column. The functions of the vertebral column. We can cite basically two functions. One, it encloses and protects the spinal cord. So one can say the spinal cord, the vertebral column encloses and protects. Encloses and protects the spinal cord. Spinal cord is another important and delicate organ in our bodies. Very important in coordination. The other function of the vertebral column, it provides a base for the attachment of the back muscles. Provides surface for attachment. Surface for attachment of the back muscles. Back muscles. Surface for attachment of the back muscles. Provides surface for attachment of the back muscles. Because of time, I beg we stop here for today. So the vertebral column and the vertebral bones will be the next part we shall look at, the different names of the different vertebrae from the neck region to the chest or the thoracic region to the abdominal region, then the last one on the tail. So I want us to revise or read more about those different vertebrae, the different regions of the body from the neck, thorax, abdomen to the tail. Their names, their structures, their functions. So you can stop here. Wish you the best of your time at home and encourage you to read your books. Remain focused. Don't give up on your books. Read hard. Assalamu alaikum.